सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्, लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। Namaskar. Now I'm going to talk in English, if I may. So, first of all, let me give a little word of thanks to all the distinguished people who are here. Rajmata Shubhanginiraje Gaekwad, Padmashri Gunvantbhai Shah, who really gave me a good understanding of how to reply to his question. Sri Rahul Amin, Tejal Bain, Dr. Nilay Yagnik, also my friend Manoj and Archana. I think there's some electricity whenever I come near the mic. And of course, the translation of this book, Nirantar Yatra, Yatra Nirantar, the journey continues. Gunvantbhai said that it is very subtle and can be easily read and so on. Of course, the English version which I wrote was simple in its own way. However, the Gujarati translation owes its simpleness and directness to Rekha Ben, who's sitting here. She's the translator. I also thank all my good friends whom I can see in front of me. Some have come from Bombay, some from Ahmedabad, and Prashant Bhai, mostly for having even introduced me to this. Now I'm standing here in Navarachna. You know what Navarachna means? New creation. So, what I'm going to say, I usually speak few words, I don't talk too much. Too much of talking is not a good thing. Understanding is more important than talking. In fact, the Upanishads have declared, Yad vacha nabhyutitam menavaga bhyutyate. That which even the words cannot describe, that is the reality. So whatever words we describe, it can't be real, but we'll try our best. I want to start with a little story. When Adi Shankara was wandering in the Karnataka area, some parents, some people from the village came and told him that there is a young boy in our midst, a young boy who has not spoken a word and is 8 years old. Not spoken a word. So, you are a great yogi and saint and so on. Maybe if you put your hand on his head, he might say something. So they invited him and took him home. So the great Adi Shankara went and he saw this boy sitting in the corner of the house, like bent with his head down on his knees. Somewhat like you might have, I don't know if you have seen a picture of some avadutas sitting like that. So Shankara went and asked him a direct question. He asked him, why don't you speak in Sanskrit? Why don't you speak? The first time the boy spoke and said, about what? He said, truth cannot be expressed in words. So whatever I speak will be untruth. Therefore I prefer to keep quiet. So Shankara named him Hastamalaka, one of his very prominent disciples later on, which means one who held the entire knowledge of Vedanta in his hasta, like an amalka fruit. Hastamalaka. So this is the subject which ultimately we have to deal with, and therefore it's rather difficult to look at it with words, but we'll try our best. Before that I want to say a couple of things. Every human being in this world, forget Vedanta, yoga, spiritual, every human being in this world looks for what? What are we all looking for? Huh?
Happiness.
Happiness. We all look for happiness. There are people who have been bachelors for many years, they think, if I get married, I will be happy. You can ask the bachelors. There are people who say, I've been married for so many years, maybe if I was a bachelor, I would have been happy. Ask the bachelor. So, we all have this much money in my bank, but I'm not satisfied. I have to look for more. So there is this tendency, which is quite natural in us, to expand because we think we're not enough and find the truth. Not find the truth, find happiness. It's common for all of us. Nobody is there who doesn't look for happiness. Even the person who commits suicide thinks that he is being free of his sorrows by committing suicide, which is happiness. This is the common search. Now there is a beautiful mantra which has come down to us from ages. And the mantra is Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamaduchyate, Purnasya Purnamataya, Purnameva Vasishyate. It's very interesting. Purnam Ada, that is complete. What? The source from which this universe has come about is in itself intrinsically complete. Full, let's say full. Now it is this fullness that we seek because our source is full. The source from which we have come is fullness, completeness, Purna. But the good news is Purnamidam. This is also full. Not only that, but unfortunately we say, but we are not full. It's because we are empty that we are trying to fill ourselves with many things, with many thoughts, with many achievements, not knowing the fact that when you are empty, you are actually full. That's why the Buddha called the ultimate Shunya. It's only a question of terminology. In Vedanta it's Purna. In the Buddhist text it is Shunya. Shunya is not nothing. It means no thing. Nothing that you can define. Not that it is nothing. This something cannot have come from nothing. It is something in its ultimate form. That is Purna. This is Purna. So, the question is, we who seek to fulfill ourselves, which is correct because it is built in our brains to fulfill, grow, expand, we think, well, I'll be dead, so let me have children so that it continues the expansion. And so on. Fine. What we should understand is that this happiness, this fullness that we seek, unfortunately is not to be found in the outside world. When we turn within and find the source of happiness inside us, as a spark of the divine, then we understand the meaning of Purnamidam. This is also complete. So, it reminds me of a story of the great Kabir Das, the weaver saint of Banaras, who talked about the Kasturi Mrga. You know, in the Himalayas, there's a particular kind of deer called the Kasturi Mrga. Musk deer. You know musk, it's usually there in perfumes, Kasturi. And when the musk deer, in a certain season, musk is produced in a little bag under its tummy, in its belly. And then there is a beautiful fragrance wafting in the air. The poor deer, not knowing the source of the fragrance, goes down looking for the source of the fragrance all over the forest, putting its snout into thorny bushes, bleeding, and yet not knowing that this fragrance is actually coming from under my belly. Kabir Das said, that is the situation of us human beings. That Purna that we seek is all there in us. If we can eliminate the little narrow-mindedness, self-centeredness, if you can keep a mind free of the emotions that cover it, like anger, jealousy. Now, talking of that, jealousy is the most difficult, most funny thing which I cannot understand. Other things we can understand. Jealousy is very strange. You are happy and I am unhappy. And yet, you know how it works. So, if we can keep the mind clear of all this, and then look within, the fragrance of the inner self glows in us. In fact, this is the essence of Vedanta. There is nothing, you can have many words, many Upanishads. I can't, if you start an Upanishad now, we'll have 4 satsangs going on. But the ultimate essence is the completeness and the happiness that we seek, which in its ultimate state is called Paramananda, is deep down in our hearts. If you can only remove the veils, clear the mind and make it quiet, then you begin to experience a happiness in us, and it is common for all. No caste, no creed, no religion, no sex, no gender. This can be found. It's actually very simple. Turn around. This is the essence of the ancient teachings that have come to us, from the Upanishads to the Vedas, to the Puranas, to all that we have today, to the Gita. So, if one can understand this basic fact, plus the fact that you find that you need to have some way of calming your mind, to make it quiet, to make it peaceful, not because it is morally good thing to be good, but because it is a practical thing to apply. For the Jains, the ahimsa, paramo dharma, is not a moral thing, it's a practice. You have to practice it, not think about it as a philosophy. So if you can put it into practice, then slowly we begin to understand the aim of life. And when once that is understood, you can still live in this world. I'm telling you, honestly, you can live in this world, operate perfectly, in fact maybe better than somebody else, and yet be free of the narrowness of mind and the tumultuous volcanoes of anger and so forth, and then reach our own essence, which is you and I have the same essence. All the Marxist and other philosophies of equality have failed all over the world. But there is one system of equality which we can look into. I call it the Vedantic system of equality, where we see the spark of the divine in all human beings. Therefore, whatever the external differences, we are the same. Unity. If this is understood, then I think we can move somewhere slowly. It's not easy, it's not one day's work, but at least the understanding of this fact should start somewhere. And then there are many ways to move towards it. There is not one way. The greatness of the culture of this country is that it looks at different ways of reaching the goal, not one. 2000 years ago, the Rig Veda declared, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti, there is only one truth, but the wise may call it by different names. Where do we find this? Nowhere but in this country. So, understanding these factors, if one can move forward, then I think we can reach our goals without changing our robes, without changing our hairstyles, without doing anything that would appear externally to be different from others. Well, I have this hair because I love to have long hair. Also, not part of the Sikha is there. When I go abroad, young people say, that looks cute, sir, so I'm very happy with this. But you don't have to. You can cut your hair and still be a yogi. You know what I mean? So with this, I'm concluding today. If you have a few questions, I'm ready to try to answer them, because until the question is asked, I don't know if I have the answer. Right? I can't say I know everything. In fact, that's important to know, that the moment you say, I know everything, we are finished. Thank you very much.
Namaskar. I have a question for you. This is a little confusion I have. So, when mosquito bites me, I used to get angry. Now I have come to like indifference. Should I be indifferent or should I be like loving and compassionate kind of a feeling I should have?
As long as it's not a malarial mosquito. No, we have also to be practical in this, that first, instead of trying to kill the mosquito after it comes, to protect ourselves, why not we avoid so that the mosquito doesn't come in? Why can't we have meshes put in windows so that they don't actually come in, instead of trying to kill them when they come in? So these are practical matters, but I'm glad that you are even thinking of the mosquito's life. That's wonderful. I mean, it's a great thing. Everybody doesn't think of this. How many mosquitoes we kill doing this, not even thinking that this is a life. Right? So I appreciate your kindness in thinking about it. But instead of trying to kill the mosquito after it comes, try to avoid it. Any little violence is violence anyway.
Thank you.
सर, हम लोग संसार में हैं।
एक मिनट, नीलेश भाई।
और संसार के अंदर मानसिक, शारीरिक, आर्थिक तीनों तरीके की हर एक हमें जिम्मेदारी है। तो मुझे लगता है कि दुख शब्द जो है उसको अवॉइड करना नामुमकिन है, बट हम दुख को प्रॉब्लम समझे या हम जिंदगी में आए हैं तो जीना ही पड़ेगा, तो उसको हम चैलेंज समझे और सॉल्व करें।
उसको प्रॉब्लम नहीं समझे, मैं यही कह रहा हूं।
हाँ, वही
दुख प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, दुख रियलिटी है। आप कितना भी अवॉइड करें वो तो आएगा ही,
बट सॉल्यूशन तो हमें निकालना ही है।
हाँ, तो उसको टेम्पररी सोल्यूशन ये है कि हम जब दुख का कारण देखें और उसको अवॉइड करें, उसको कैसा सॉल्व, ये टेम्पररी सोल्यूशन है। एब्सोल्यूट सोल्यूशन ये है कि हम ऐसी जगह पहुंचे जहां दुख कितना भी आए हमें अफेक्ट नहीं करेगा। दो सोल्यूशन है इसमें। वो अल्टीमेट सोल्यूशन वो है, और डेली सजेशन डेफिनेटली आप जब सिचुएशन में हैं जो आपको दुख दे रहा है उसको सॉल्व करना चाहिए। मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि उसको छोड़ देना चाहिए, मगर इसको एक परमानेंट सोल्यूशन तो ढूंढ के निकालना पड़ेगा। तो परमानेंट सोल्यूशन है कि हम अपने आप को, अपने आत्मा, अंतर आत्मा को अगर दर्शन हमारा हो जाए तो जो भी दुख हो, जितना भी सुनामी हो दुख का, कुछ होता नहीं है। आदमी स्टडी रहता है और अपना काम करता है। दुनिया छोड़ के भागने की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, फेस करने की बात।
बस सोच और समझ दोनों चीज ऐसी है कि आदमी जब सोचता है, समझता है, तो दुख यानी कि वो खत्म करना मुझे लग रहा है कि थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट है। एनिमल्स में इतना, जानवर को कोई दुख नहीं, या तो हमारे इंसान में भी जिसको समझ ही नहीं है, जो जिसे पागल बोलते हैं, तो हमें खुश ही रहते हैं। हमें कहते हैं
पागल जो हैं, कभी कभी वो सोचते हैं कि हम पागल हैं।
आई नो।
वो पागल नहीं होते हैं, ऐसे अवधूत हैं जिनको हम देख के समझते हैं कि ये पागल है, वो समझता है कि ये पागल है। तो इसका तो विजन अलग अलग होता है।
Sir, you said that in order to reach our goal, we need to practice pranayams and do yoga regularly, like it's written in Upanishads and all. So, how do we know that what are the signs that we are into the right path? If we are practicing it daily, then what are the signs that you would, I would like to know that what are the signs or the experiences that tell us that we are on the right track.
Right. Let me tell you, you're a young man. I can't see you properly, but I think you're a young man. The most important sign of spiritual progress is not that somebody is having visions. No yogi can have as many visions as an LSD addict. So, it's not the visions that matter, When your progress, of course, visions are the byproducts of spiritual progress. They're not the main thing. The main thing in spiritual progress, if you are progressing, one is that it is possible for you to remain undisturbed in the midst of all circumstances. Such a mind is called as Stita Prajna. Whatever circumstances are, or if somebody not depending on what others think about us. For that, you can take good lessons from politicians. They don't care what others, they do their job. I'm not saying we should do everything like them, but this is a good point. So, when you live in this world, examine yourself carefully and see, in your spiritual progress, is your mind becoming wider, more embarrassing of others, or is it becoming narrow-minded and is only thinking of oneself? If there is a change in that, and if you become kinder, more compassionate, more calm, and are not affected by circumstances, then you are really moving in the spiritual field. If you live that way, then it is also possible to meditate. You can't sit for 10 minutes and meditate when in the world you are always agitated. This is not possible. So if we can become less self-centered, if our minds can expand and embrace others, then we are moving on the spiritual path, which is recognizing the divine spark in all living beings. This is the sign. Now for instance, one minute, I'm not finished. Suppose, there is a beautiful statement in the Gita, Tulya Ninda Stuti